So this is the Atari VCS. This was Atari's take on a retro style console, which is also a modern thing because it can do some newer games, smaller indie focused games, and it is also a mini computer. It's kind of a hodgepodge. It wants to be everything at once. And does it succeed on doing all of those things? But we have the console right there, and I like it. I like the way it looks. I got the version that is meant to look like the old Atari 2600, which originally was called the Atari VCS, the Video Computer System. So this is a throwback to that with its name and with the model that I got. Now, when I picked it up, I got it with the controller bundle. So it came with two controllers. The first being a traditional looking Xbox inspired controller. I believe this is made by Power A. I like the little flourishes of red. And you can see that the D-pad is a like circular button, almost similar to like an Intellivision. It's okay. I find that it does kind of get a little wear on the thumb. But I have been enjoying this. It's, you know, it's an Xbox style controller. Nothing too wrong with that. And now I'm going to turn on the classic controller, the one modeled after the Atari 2600 joystick. I'm going to turn this one on now. You got to hold down the Atari Fuji button. It starts to light up. Once it's gone a solid light, we know that it's synced up. Takes a little bit sometimes, I feel. There we go. So now classic joystick is lined up. And what's really cool is you got this cute light up with everything, which I think looks really cute. I like that a lot. Cancel. It has two buttons. It has your main button and your secondary button, which looks almost like an accept and back button. And this is good if you're playing games that need more than one button. And a lot of games on here actually do try to be relatively simple with its control setup and use two buttons, which I really dig. Another interesting thing about this is that it actually is a dial as well. So this is great for playing games that require some kind of a dial or paddle control, like the classic paddle controller that was released with the Atari 2600. So this is great for games like Breakout, Pong, Tempest. I will say I do have one issue that when I take a look at the calibration for this thing, when it comes to the dial, it's not completely still. It's like shaking a little bit, and it does make playing some games not great. I don't know if that's a defect. I don't know if that's something I can fix in calibration. Something I'm going to need to look into to get that sorted. So this is your home screen. Your home screen is a mixture of what you have game-wise and in your apps, and this can also be separated. I picked up some games last night I haven't played yet, but this is the main thing, like these like shelves, these cubbies, this type of setup. I don't hate it. I think it's from a distance, I like how much stuff is on screen. I like how colorful it is because of all the images. I don't mind this. I find it's easy enough to navigate. Also, again, using the classic controller. But it's got all this stuff on here: Disney Plus, Netflix, Prime. Because my assumption is it's just loading up browser. So you just put two ways you can navigate that. First is you get your Atari VCS companion, which is an app. This is an actual app that uses your mobile phone as a keyboard, as a touchpad, as like a little mouse pad, and you can turn your phone into something to easily navigate these browser apps. Or you can just plug in a keyboard and mouse into the system. I have a wireless keyboard and mouse from Logitech, one dongle for both devices. I just plug that in and I can use that on here. Because this is also a mini PC. Take a look at apps. We have all the apps that I've downloaded. This is PC mode. Now, I don't have anything for this just yet. I have not had a chance to putz with this. This is the only thing so far for the VCS I can't really talk about. Because the way this works, because it is a mini PC, you can get any kind of OS that works on this system. I've seen people use Windows 10 predominantly, but also right behind that, or right in front of that maybe, is any kind of Linux. I don't know anything about Linux, so I can't speak to what, I don't know, type of Linux, what type of version they go with, I don't know. But I have seen people just plug in a USB, go through the whole process of putting an OS properly onto a flash drive in order to then make it work and boot up as a mini PC. Because this is a mini PC, it's also customizable to a degree. There's a slot inside the system. You just open up the system, take off the case, and it's like almost like a laptop, like a mini PC. There's spots where you can replace the old RAM and put new 16 gig RAM on here. There's only 8 gig RAM on here. You put 16 gig RAM on here. There's a spot for an M2 SSD, I believe it is. My apologies, I'm very computer hardware wise, I'm not the smartest. I'm still learning. I think it's an M2 SSD. There's also this thing kind of blows fast. The fan on this thing, you can really hear it going sometimes. I've heard people say it used a thermal pad on the fan and it's not as effective, so putting thermal paste on it has alleviated some of the fan kind of losing its mind sometimes. But that is the PC mode. And the PC side of things, kind of customizable. And because we want to put on that M.2, you can then load the OS to that if you want to, if you don't want to keep it just on a jump drive where it might load a little slower. So there's options here. There's stuff that you can do with it, which is really neat. Like, there's some neat stuff there on the PC side of things. I don't know. I've seen people go through this and play games from the system using their OSs. Like, they got Windows 10 and then they downloaded Steam, and then after customizing the Atari in a way that's best for them, they then would try to play some games on here, and it's usually like low settings or medium settings, but some older games can actually go on a higher setting and run pretty well. So it's doable, it's possible. So here's the big ones: Antstream, Air Console, Xbox Cloud Gaming, GeForce Now, Luna, originally Stadia was on here as well. These are their ways of making it that you can play modern games on here with less of an issue because you're doing it through streaming. Antstream is one specifically targeted towards retro games. Apparently it's something like 1,300 games are on here. I have not loaded this up yet because I just haven't had the desire to yet. Apparently it's been pretty solid. I think it's like $40 a year, and you can get access to all of these games. Like anything streaming related, how good's your internet, right? And if it's asking a lot, like you're playing some shoot 'em ups, you're playing 1942 with a lot of stuff on screen, and you want that bitrate to hold, that's something to be weary of, I guess. Air Console, this is another one of those smaller ones. This is games that are meant to be played on a phone. The way this works is like, think Jackbox, essentially. You can go on a browser, type in the code that's on the screen, and you and your friends can play games on your phones. A lot of these are smaller games. There's one game on here that's something like What If Angry Birds but multiplayer. There's like a Mario Party style game, but it's all like horror themed characters and it's really cutesy. A lot of the games on here are stuff that I honestly probably could play with my dad and my sister when we get together and play games. That's why I actually do have the subscription to this one, because it was super duper on sale for the year. And I wanted to play some of these games with my family, because hey, they just got to play it on their phone. That would be pretty easy for them to make that magic happen. Xbox Cloud Gaming, if you have the highest form of Game Pass and you can do streaming, you can stream it on here. Luna in GeForce Now, if you're part of those services. And again, I actually have an Amazon Luna controller. I love it. Can't recommend it enough. GeForce Now, you can do your streaming from here as well. So that's a possibility. You can try this on here. Because this is Bluetooth, you can then load different controllers on here. If you're not down with the Atari controllers, just put a PlayStation 5 controller, put a Luna controller, and it should take, which I find pretty neat. And with the games, not a lot of games on here. It really does come down to how excited are you to play Atari games that are repackaged on here and use this controller. That's kind of the big shtick I have found, is not all of these games, but a lot of these games, and a lot of the newer games even, have it where you can play with this style of controller. And does that do it for you? And if it does, like, hey, then come on over here and find the games that have that built in. So far, a lot of the games are like less than $10. So a lot of the games that I own on this system are less than that. I bought some games that are like $2, bought some games that are $5. I think it's only 1 or 2 on here that I actually bought for $9.99. Everything else I have bought in between $3 to $9, which is pretty cool, I will say. Someone right now who currently money's, not flowing, to be able to buy a bunch of games for super cheap, that's been pretty nice. At least these style of games. I will also say, these games, other than like your Atari games and maybe a few here and there, these are games you can get other places. These are games that you can get on Steam, on Switch, on any other console, mobile even. So that's one of the weird things about this game, is this system, is the library. How dedicated are you to building a library on the VCS? When these are games you can probably get in other places, sometimes even on the VCS itself. Like, oh, we have Circus Atari on here. We're just giving Circus Atari away for free. There you go. It's on the VCS vault. It's on the Atari vault, which is free. We'll just give it away. So, like, weird things like that, right? Take a look at some other games here. What's also kind of neat, there's actually 2 other things here I thought was pretty neat. One being, we actually have these prototype Atari games that never got a properly release, like Saboteur, and I believe Aquaventure was another one. Definitely Saboteur. That was one that came out, there was a prototype for it that was like released online. It's also part of Atari 50, but if you don't want to load through Atari 50, you can get it here and play some Saboteur, which is pretty neat. There's also, gonna kind of skip ahead real quick, I will come back, but there's also some games on here that I thought were really neat to see on here. Find them real quick. And that is over here, these Atari games of XL for the 7800 and Artie for the 7800. These are homebrew games. These are homebrew games for the Atari 7800. So it went 2600, 5200, 7800. That's the number of what the consoles had. So 7800 being the most recent. That was it was 7800, and then console-wise after that was the Jaguar. So we're talking a bit of a leap there. But these are games that were made by homebrew communities. These are games made by fans to just be able to play on your 7600, like through emulation. 7800, excuse me. But they are now properly released on here. Artie is pretty neat looking because it kind of reminds me of the game Hero. I'm assuming that's what they're going for here. Like, that looks like Hero. Maybe it doesn't play like Hero, which is what is it? Helicopter emergency rescue operation. And you have a dude with a little helicopter behind him, and you're going through all these catacomb style stuff, which is a cool game. So I think this is like a Hero type, and even the ARTI, whatever that might mean. Oh, I wish it would say here. It doesn't say. Anyway, that's cool that it's on here. We also have games like, let's see if I can find it on here, Mr. Run and Jump. This was a new game released for the 2600, and they actually put it on a cartridge for the 2600 through Atari's website. There's also a recharged version of the game that's on here. Now, actually, I just realized I gotta talk about one other thing really quickly before we start playing games. So, out of the box, the Atari VCS. I got this thing out of the box, and it did not work. Here's what happened. I get the console excitedly. I plug it into my TV. I get my internet set up. It can find my Wi-Fi, no problem. And it just will not update. It finds updates, but will not update them at all. And this was an issue I heard before I got the system. Like, hey, there's a chance your system will not update, and it will not be able to do anything unless you go through all these steps that Atari had also put on their website. So what needed to be done is you get a USB. I think it needs to be more than 8 gigs. You get a version of the update, the most updated version of the OS that Atari has up on its site. You then have to get something like Etcher, which will then allow you to put the flash onto the USB, put it on there properly, and then you need to plug that in to the console, boot it up, and then let it try to update itself. You have to kind of do it not necessarily through the BIOS, but you're not doing it just through the Atari, front page here. Then we had the issue that I had. I did all that, and I am not the most computer savvy, I will admit that. So it did take me a little bit to make sure, like, all right, am I downloading the right thing? Am I doing this right? And I'm taking things really slow, because in my mind, like, I don't want to brick this thing. I want to follow the steps Atari is telling me to do here and make sure that goes over well. So I plug everything in, and it's all loading well thanks to some YouTube tutorials as well. And I'm seeing, like, all right, update going through, do not unplug. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. 4 hours later, it does not take. For 4 hours, it tried to take from this drive. I'm just like, what is the problem here? I followed the steps. I did the etcher. I did everything, yada, yada, yada. No problem. Why is this doing this? And I was worried, like, what do I do? Is it just stuck in a loop? How do I get out of this? Do I unplug it? Like, I know it says don't, because I could really fuck it up, but, like, what am I doing here? Is it stuck? Do I just let it sit overnight and hope to God it catches up with itself and not catch on fire? I don't know. And I unplugged it. I was worried, like, what do I do? Do I turn it off? Do I unplug it? What do I do? And sure enough, yep, that broke shit. It said, like, it could not find the boot, and that was that. And I was like, fuck, I broke it. I broke it. I got too scared. I broke it. What do I do here? So I go on archive.org, and someone has a version of the OS from 2020. So I do the whole process. I then go and put that into my drive, etcher, the whole thing, yada yada, plug it in, finds it within minutes, and it reverts the system back to 2020, repairs the console. Oh, thank God. Sweet. So then I do the whole thing again with the new update, put on a drive, do the whole thing, shabam, yada yada, plug it in, minutes, it finds it, and now we're fully updated. That should not be a thing. That should not be a thing. That should totally not be a thing. That is, if you get a new computer, a new console, whatever, and out of the box it says, like, hey, this shit don't work no good, and you need to go through this 10-step process, and I guess, in my case, just hope it works the first time, because it may not. You gotta do it all over again. What? That is bonkers that I had to go through all that. And when I went online, I went on, like, something like the Atari Age forums, or, looking at posts on Reddit or whatever. That apparently is a known issue where, no, this is a thing, it just won't update, you need to do it manually. And I guess, hope to God, it works the first time you do it. Otherwise, it's just, I'm just kind of scared here, like, what's going on? So that really stunk. That really stunk. I thought that was a really awful first impression. Once I got it fixed at like 1:30 in the morning, I was able to start going about the system normally. I was able to download games. I was able to get everything that I needed, and we were good to go. And I'm having a good time with this. I am having a good time with this console. But we're going to hop into some games now. Let's hop into the Atari VCS vault.